Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is July 28th, and right now we are looking at the mid-level water vapor loop. You can see British Columbia, Washington, Oregon. Look at this frontal system out here. Glorious looking thing. It's going to keep us cooled down here for a day or two before we start to bring the heat back. But this is coming at really, climatologically speaking, the driest time of the year. On July 29th, for example, at SeaTac, it's only rained 4 times in the last 73 years on July 29th. And we have the chance to break the all-time daily record high precipitation for that day. We're going to dive into those details, and we're going to dive into the warm-up that is going to be coming here for the Pacific Northwest as well. Taking a look at what happened yesterday, I'm going to scroll all the way back into the afternoon hours here, and I want to highlight the convection here across the Northern Cascades. You can see we had a few thunderstorms there. Lake Chelan, Northern Cascades, BC here, upper level low just triggered enough of that convection, just unstable enough to kick off some of those lightning strikes there. You can also see some lightning activity here across the higher terrain of Idaho and off into eastern Idaho towards Wyoming as well. Then we scroll through the overnight hours, and you can see these hot spots on the GOES 18. Those are ongoing fires. They're across Oregon, Washington. You can see the Park Fire down there across California as well. And then we scroll on in towards this morning. You can see the pretty extensive cloud cover west of the mountains there, and a lot of smoke east of the mountains drifting about this morning also. So about 360 subscribers yesterday. You guys are just absolutely killing it here. Again, all the thanks goes to you guys. This channel is not possible without you, especially to my monetary supporters that click on that join button down below. Again, thanks very much. Taking a look at the isolated dry thunderstorm potential for today. It does include Missoula, Butte, Great Falls, portions of Montana, and some portions of Idaho as well, but not looking at any thunderstorm activity here coming up for the Cascades of Washington or Oregon, at least not of the dry nature here coming up within the next couple of days. So taking a look at inland northwest, they do mention the chance of thunderstorms with this next system. It shouldn't be too much. It would just be a couple lightning strikes, not too bad. But then we are definitely going to be warming up here, and they're calling for a smoky Friday through the weekend here. Spokane National Weather Service always on top of things with their graphics. This is yesterday morning, however, but it still applies. Taking a look at Seattle, 78 degrees yesterday. That's 1 degree below average here, nowhere near the record high. No precipitation to speak of this month, but that is going to be changing as we move through tomorrow. We're probably not going to get towards the average precipitation for the month here, but we have the chance to pick up, 2-3 tenths of an inch rain and set that record temperature precipitation set back in 1993. You can see 17 hundredths of an inch there. And if we take a look here at precipitation average, you can clearly see at the end of July that is the bottom there for SeaTac International Airport. You can see November being the peak, and a lot of rain that we get during the winter and the fall months here, but the bottom is right there at the end of July. That's why this is an excessively rare system moving in. Now, taking a look at, again, just kind of driving home that point there, the end of July is the driest time of the year here across the Pacific Northwest. Now, taking a look at the 6-hour precipitation, I'm going to show you the timing here. This is actually tonight at about 11 p.m. You can see this is fully on into western British Columbia, Vancouver Island. That's moving on into this afternoon. And then tonight, very early tomorrow morning, moving into western Washington, across central BC, and eventually into the Cascades as we go through the afternoon hours. Some of that precipitation trying to fall across western Oregon, a little bit less, of course, than western Washington. Some pretty decent amounts across the higher terrain as well. We'll look at some of those totals in a moment also. Now, this is Tuesday afternoon. You can see the showers continue for some of this higher terrain, especially of western Washington and British Columbia. And then we scroll out into the extended forecast, and you can see we are going to dry out and we are going to warm up as we head towards the Seafair weekend coming up here. So looking at total precipitation in inches, how much are we going to get? Is Seattle going to set their all-time daily record high for July 29th? It is a meager record here, but it's quite significant. Taking a look at what the latest European model run is saying, let's put this into motion. You can see BC getting the rainfall first, moving into western Washington and starting to cloak the Puget Sound here. I'm worried that the European is not picking up on just how dramatic some of this rain shadowing is going to be across some of the Puget Sound, but it is showing, that about a third of an inch, maybe a little more for SeaTac there, and the higher amounts across the higher terrain, the Olympic Mountains, Vancouver Island, British Columbia higher terrain, and the Cascades of Washington and Oregon, better amounts versus the Willamette Valley. You can see just maybe a few hundredths of an inch, better amounts across some of the coastal ranges there as well. And we're looking at maybe some trace amounts here, maybe a hundredth of an inch, maybe a little bit better once you start to get out towards Spokane or some of the higher terrain of northeast Washington as well. So not talking about any kind of washout by any means, but you're going to see the clouds and maybe a little bit of light precipitation out of that. So if we take a look at the North American model, this is total precipitation in inches, and we're kind of looking across the Pacific Northwest also. So let's go and scroll through there. You see the frontal precipitation moving through as we go on in through very early Tuesday morning. You can see the lion's share of this is going to go, as per typical with these frontal systems, Cascades west, Vancouver Island, British Columbia. Again, the higher terrain is going to be the winner here, but will Seattle break its, all-time daily record high? That's a good question, something I'm going to be watching here tomorrow. But you can also see the rain shadowing is picking up here across some areas down of the Olympic Mountains. So if we take a closer look at that, this kind of shows it pretty well. As you can see, we're going to scroll through here and you can kind of see the lesser amount. So not everybody's going to get a bunch of rain out of this across some of the Puget Sound. You can see some of the Kitsap Peninsula there not getting too much. Tacoma, you're looking at 2/10 of an inch. And SeaTac, it is checking in with 3/10 of an inch, which would break that record. But look at the higher amounts across the higher terrain of the Cascades and the Olympic Mountains in comparison. Now looking at Seattle Tacoma International Airport, the European is kind of steadfast here, the mean and the control, but both up over 4/10 of an inch for SeaTac Airport. And this is the National Blend of Models calling for over 2/10 of an inch there as well. You can kind of see this shows wind, it shows temperatures, how the temperatures are going to be suppressed as we go through the day Monday with that system rolling through. And then you can see Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You can see the heat is going to be returning here to the Pacific Northwest. Now, we're not talking about much wind with this. I just wanted to kind of show this. I mean, you're talking about some blustery winds in the upper teens and 20s, nothing at all that you're really going to notice too much. You might because it'll be a little bit chillier than normal, but I mean, Quileute, you're talking about 20, 23 miles per hour. Astoria, nothing to speak of really, and Eugene's kind of similar thing there as well. So if we look at excuse me, frog in my throat this morning. We're looking at Hoquiam right now, and you can see about 5/10 of an inch of rain here, kind of the mean. Hoquiam right there on the coast for Washington coastline. Here's Bellingham. You're looking about 4/10, maybe a little bit more there on the European. Spokane, it's generally less than 1/10 of an inch. I wish we were going to get more out of this, but you can see some of the ensembles don't even have anything at all. So yeah, maybe we'll squeeze 5/100ths, maybe 1/10 of an inch out of this. In Tri-Cities, maybe trace, and we're not looking at much. The mean is right under 2/10 of an inch. Portland International, lesser amounts between 1/10 and 2/10 of an inch of rain coming up. And Tillamook on the coastline, the control run actually shows up over 1/3 of an inch, but the mean is closer to 2/10. Now, looking at the upper levels of the atmosphere, this is about 10,000 feet. If I put this into motion, you can kind of see that, I guess we can call it a polar low, but the area of colder air there, and we're just getting a very slight piece of that. That's what's driving that frontal system here across the Pacific Northwest. So something else I want to show you with this loop here, as I go off into the extended, you can kind of see that ridge of high pressure building there, and you can see the temperatures there at 10,000 feet really start to rise as we start to build that ridge across the western USA. And then we're going to be playing this cat and mouse game of some troughing out of the Gulf of Alaska and western BC versus the Pacific Northwest, and how much onshore flow are we going to get, and how dominant is this ridge going to be across the lower 48. Now, taking a look at the European, this is the ensemble mean on the left versus the GFS on the right. This is last night's run here. So if I put this into motion, there goes the system here as we go through tomorrow, Monday. Then we start to build this ridge. You notice the European wants to build it a bit quicker. The GFS not quite as dynamic with this ridge, or not as far west anyway. And you can kind of see that as we go. But we have good model agreement that the ridge will be developing and we will be warming up as we head towards the upcoming weekend. So look at the Canadian. Let's just see what it says just for the heck of it. There goes Monday's system rolling through. Quickly start to build that ridge back in here. And actually, let me update that because we have new data coming in. So we should have more to look at here. There we go. You can see that ridge building across the lower 48 and back into the Pacific Northwest as we go through the upcoming weekend here. So pretty dominant ridge here. Much of the lower 48 is going to be above average temperature. And again, we'll be playing that cat and mouse game to see how much onshore flow we can get out of this setup here as we go through the upcoming, or at least the early portion of August anyway. So National Blend of Models, this is for Monday. You can clearly see the system's going to be rolling through here. We bounce back a little bit Tuesday, and then we start to bounce back these temperatures here as we go on in through the early portion of August. And now looking at the entire area here, this is temperature for today. You might have heard the dog bark out there. Must be somebody at the door. We'll take a look here. So this is for Seattle for today. You can see 77. You can see some low 80s showing up for the Willamette Valley. Put that into motion for tomorrow. The cool down, that is going to feel quite nice with some rain falling out there across the area. You're going to get a little taste of fall here as we go towards the end of July, the driest time of the year for the Pacific Northwest. Here we go, Tuesday bouncing back. Look at Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Hundreds returning east of the mountains as well. Look at some of the valleys all the way up into British Columbia, Fraser River Valley, upper 80s starting to show up here, mid 90s for the Willamette Valley. Here we go into Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Not much of a break coming for us as well as we really start to ramp up these temperatures here across the area once again. And you haven't been dreaming it. We've been above average. This is so far for the month of July. July 1st through July 27th to be exact, and a lot of places are 4 to 8 degrees above average across Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Montana. It's been an exceptionally warm July, and below normal precipitation has been in charge here across the Pacific Northwest as well. And this is the 6 to 10 day issued yesterday. You can clearly see the Climate Prediction Center highlighting that ridge and the above average conditions it would bring, and some below average signal for the Pacific Northwest in that same time frame. Fire danger and nothing too crazy right now. You can pause this and look at it if you need to, but not look at any high risk or any kind of significant lightning threat in the short term. So looking at the last two, actually this is from June 4th to July 23rd. If I scroll through here, you can kind of see how some drought has been introduced to portions of Washington and Oregon. If I scroll back and forth, you can see some severe drought was issued for the east slopes of the Cascades of Washington there. And we've got some moderate drought that encompasses a lot of Oregon right now also. And this is something fun I like to look at. I like to show the global circulations here. And this is the Pacific Ocean. We got Australia, there's Hawaii, there's Washington State. If I put this into motion, you can kind of see what looks like little waves rippling across there. Those are small scale gravity waves associated with convection across the intertropical convergence zone there. And so I like to play through this and look at this stuff. And if we take a look at the European lightning flash density, you can kind of see the similar motion here with that lightning there, intertropical convergence zone. You can see the monsoon moisture on the daily basis, the diurnal cycle there across the Sierra Madre into the southwest USA as well. And that brings me to my main point here is that you can look up basically anything you can think of in meteorology, and somebody will have written a scientific journal on it. For example, this one is talking about tropical gravity waves. Some of them are generally too small in scale and too high in frequency to be resolved by global climate models here. That's what we were looking at there as the precipitable water map that I was looping. So interesting stuff there. I mean, you can really deep dive into this stuff if you're really interested. This is readily available to the public, and a lot of researchers will deal with gravity waves on a much different scale altogether. And so the possibilities are endless. I mean, I've only read a fraction of the journals that are out there, and I read a lot of them. So if you ever want to deep dive into meteorology and you want to get involved in it, that is a good way to do it. But yeah, otherwise, here we go. Frontal system is on its way, folks. This is going to be awesome watching this thing roll in. It's going to keep us cool tomorrow, but then as you saw, the heat's going to bounce back just in time for Seafair weekend and for a lot of activities. But, you know, there's a lot of smoke out there as well, so I kind of wish the rain was going to hang out for a bit longer. The good news is Tuesday might have some showers with it as well. But otherwise, click like and subscribe. We'll do this all again tomorrow, and I will talk to you guys then.